Hi guys, welcome back to the Desk Corner. Welcome to a new video. In today's video, we're going to try out the Sennelier oil pastel set that I bought for Black Friday. So it's been almost 2 months since I received this set and I still have not opened them or tried them out. Part of that reason being because I am kind of afraid of oil pastels, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. Also, I wanted to wait until I could make a proper video about them. But we're finally being brave enough to open these and take a look and try and create something with them. But before we get to that, I want to show you guys the only other oil pastel set that I've owned and have experience with, and these are the Junior Artist Student Quality Oil Pastels. These probably look familiar to a lot of you guys. I'm pretty sure this is what we used in my high school, middle school, maybe elementary art classes. Here is what they look like. They are not, you know, they've seen better days. They're not in their best condition because I've had this set for probably like 10 years or so. I can't even remember when I acquired this set or how, so that tells you how old they are. But you could see they're not really very used either. That's because, as I mentioned before, I have not really had much experience with oil pastels. But I did make a video on my channel not that long ago, under a year ago, where I pulled these out and decided to use them again for the first time in a while. This was the result of that video, which you can watch. I'll link it down below if you want. It's a pretty fun video, honestly. I had a lot of fun making it. But yeah, this is obviously an artwork that I came up with myself. It is very original. I did not use any references or, you know, I wasn't inspired by anything else, obviously. I'm just very creative. I was able to come up with this on my own. Okay, but really this is my recreation of the Scream, obviously. I know this intro is getting lengthy, but I do want to add in another reason that I decided to purchase the landscape set, and that is because of these Derwent drawing pencils, because I just absolutely love the color range here. They're really muted, natural, neutral tones, and because of that I was thinking about maybe getting another type of landscape set. And that's how we ended up with these guys. We can take a look here at the packaging here to begin with. The Sennelier oil pastels come in a nice little cardboard box. I like the artwork here as well that's used for the display. And then there's a swatch right here of all the colors, but of course I'm going to make my own swatch. Then on the back here we have a little description, which maybe I'll briefly read a little of it. Apply colors directly or mix colors on support, blend with rag or your finger, dilute colors with mineral spirits or turpentine, no. Blend them with a brush. If needed, first seal paper with gesso, mixed media application over watercolor oil or acrylic. Colors may be sculpted with preheated palette knife. After heating, adhere and inlay pigment, sand, sawdust, wood, paper, glass, or metal into moist color. That's a bit more complicated than what we're going to be doing today. It also says to use at least a 170 GSM or 80-pound paper and heavier, which is fine. That's what I expected anyway. It's upside down. Okay, let's take a look inside now that we have read the box. Here it comes with a cute little pamphlet. I love when sets come with these. Pretty much all sets come with these, but I need to maybe stick them all in a drawer. My collection of these little booklets. That's the swatch sheet. How many colors? 120? There's 120 of these? Oh my goodness, I thought the biggest set you could get was 72. 120 is like the large set of polychromos, actually. So that is actually a lot of colors. I did not know they offered that many. That's great. We also get this little booklet, and I'm pretty sure this came with my watercolor set as well. It just shows some of the different media and products that Sennelier sells. So the oil pastels are on this page, so we can just take a look at that. And then it just shows some of their other products as well. Obviously there was the watercolors, acrylics, and all of that, so we don't have to go through that right now. We've got this nice black foam, which I absolutely love when this is included with art supplies, because we all know how annoying it can be when they move out of place, or if you're worried about the box not being sturdy enough to protect the supplies. So it's really nice that it comes with this. And there they are. They're so beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at them. Should we just stare at them for the entire video instead? Just like the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils, we have little slots for every single pastel in this foam. You can hold the box at various angles here without worrying too much. Now you don't want to hold it like all the way upright, but you can kind of move it around a little bit without worrying too much. And of course with this protective layer of foam on top, you can really just move it however you'd like to. So that's a nice added component here. I've already got oil pastel on my fingers. I've decided I should probably swatch these out, and I think I'm just going to swatch them in this order. I don't think I'm going to reorder them for now. I could reorder them, I just don't want to at the moment, so we're just going to swatch them out how they came. Oh my goodness, you guys. That's insane. Hold on, let me zoom in here so you guys can see my swatching a bit better. This is like drawing with lipstick. I mean, oh my gosh, in comparison to these, which might have just been old and a little bit more dry than they're supposed to be, I don't know, but in comparison with these, this Sennelier set is even more like slippery and just smooth, and it's actually scaring me a bit. I don't know how I'm going to create art with this, oh my gosh. And we will try to smudge some of these later. Gosh, I hope you guys don't mind this being a bit of a longer video. I might include some of these clips more in real time, just so you guys can get more of my like actual thoughts as I am creating here. I might speed part of this up anyways and voice over it. But I thought it might be cool for you guys to hear my first thoughts on these. And as we are looking at these beautiful greens, do they have names on them or are they just numbered? Nope, they have names on them. Cinnabar Green Deep. Okay, so we're going to have to label these afterwards. After we're done with this first row, we'll go back and label these. They feel like lipstick. I don't even want to press hard at all. I mean, obviously I just have to barely glide the pastel over the paper, and the pigment just kind of slips right onto the paper. Now this particular paper is probably a little bit too textured for my liking. I'm not going to use this for my artwork. We're just going to use it for the swatch. I think 6 colors in a row might be good for this. Now for you watching this, it's probably nothing special as you see me swatching them, but how they actually feel on the paper is a different story. I am such a noob at this. And I know this is a bit uneven of a swatch chart, so that's what these look like. And I guess I can go ahead and try to blend them now. And there we go, awkwardly spaced out, especially this first one, which is bothering me a bit. This green, especially at the front here, is actually a lot more like wet. I don't know, it feels more like a paint. Very interesting. So there's my first row swatched out here. I'm going to try and get this off my hands for the second row, and then we're going to label them, and I'll speed this up a bit so this goes a bit faster. That first row of colors, I actually had to go back and check what their names were after I had swatched them because I didn't look at the labels. Luckily, I remembered to look at the labels as I was swatching for the rest so that I kind of remembered the names and it wasn't as annoying to go back and take the pastels out. Because when you do go back to take the pastel out, you have to be very careful because they're so messy. They even make stains on the foam where they're sitting, which is another reason why I didn't want to reorder them because I didn't want the stains to get all mixed up, but that's okay. And you can see that we have a lot of browns and greens because it is a landscape set. But what I really love about this set is not just that we have some of these more natural colors, but also we have quite a lot of deep colors as well. Of course, the obvious ones are the browns, but then if you look, we also have a charcoal blue, which you'll see me label in a moment. It's that third color in the third row. And I really like having that option. I actually used it a lot in my artwork, which you'll see. That pine green is a nice deep green, but it's not the deepest green we'll get. We'll see what the deepest green is in this last row here. Kind of that yucky color, that second green. Still useful, but a bit yucky. Black was kind of just placed in the middle, not sure why. And there's that sap green at the very end. And I really like having that. It's a really nice, deep, beautiful green. The yucky one was called Cinnabar Yellow Brown. We get a Delft blue, which is always nice as well. And then we have a lighter version of the sap green, and then the sap green there at the end. Of course I wanted to go back and smudge it a bit, I just have the urge to smudge these, especially because of the texture of the paper. And then I decided I might as well cut this down so it can fit better inside of the box of oil pastels. And I was just about perfect in how it fit there. I had to trim off some more off the edges, and it fit right perfectly on top. Now to start our artwork. I just found this random paper. I don't know where it was. I was reorganizing my desk and it turned up in one of my folders. It felt like a thick enough drawing paper to use oil pastel with, and so I just decided to go with it. And then I sketched out my landscape, which is based on a reference photo, but also I kind of changed a lot of components to it. I just took the general overview of what the reference photo looked like, and then I just changed a few things. I wanted this to be a very basic looking landscape. I didn't want to add too many details, as I knew I would just be trying these out for the first time. I didn't want to stress myself out too much. But I did decide to put a building in the middle that you'll see me do in a moment. And that building I knew I was not going to use the pastels for, but I was actually going to use colored pencil to fill it in. I didn't mind doing that because I do not want to try and do really tiny detailed areas with oil pastel. It just doesn't seem necessary. And I like the look of the colored pencil with the oil pastel. So I'm going to leave that part blank throughout the artwork process until we get to finishing the oil pastels. Also, you'll see I created a nice border around the edges of the paper. I didn't want to create a piece that large to start with, but also I thought it would be easier to avoid smudging if I had some room around the edges. I wasn't sure how messy these were going to be because all of my experiences thus far with pastel have been quite messy. You can see I'm going in, and I think that's the charcoal blue that I'm using with a bit of black and a lighter blue as well for those mountains in the background. It was really useful to have those deeper colors. For the very first area on that bottom left, I smoothed it out, blended it out a little bit too much. Then I decided for the rest of the piece I just wanted to include more texture and leave it looking a bit more impressionistic, if that makes sense. The quote-unquote brush strokes are visible, and that was okay with me because I like that look with oil pastel. Maybe in a future video or future artwork I would blend these out with solvents because I've heard they blend beautifully with the solvent. I didn't feel like bringing out the solvents for this video, so I apologize for that, but I'll definitely try it another time. I just tend to be a bit sensitive to those, especially around my eyes, and I sometimes get a headache using those, so I have to be careful with ventilation. But in the future, if I want to do a much more blended piece, I would definitely try these out and see how well they blend with oil-based solvents. My technique for blending here was very much just layering. The pastels kind of just blend into each other a bit more the way that paint would. I was a little bit worried about how that would work, but as I started working on the grass and I put down that first layer of yellow and then I put some green on top, you can see that it really came together and blended nicely without me having to smoothly blend it out too much. That first bush on the left came out a bit like a disaster at first, but you'll see me fix it later on, and then it actually looked pretty good. Since it's a basic landscape, it's pretty consistent across the piece and there's nothing too crazy. I also didn't get a chance to use my reds really, but I used a lot of my greens, browns, and blues, and so that's good enough for my first time trying these out. The trees in the back were challenging for me. I feel like they blended into each other a little bit too much and I wasn't sure what I was doing. I kind of lost myself a bit. I was trying not to get too much on the actual building, and it's very hard because the oil pastels are so blunt. Overall though, I really like working with them. They feel so smooth, almost like oil paint, and they're so easy to blend. They just glide over the paper without much effort. I would say the hardest part about it is just not being able to include many details or having to be really careful around the detailed areas. And then of course the possibility of smudging, which you do not want to do. And obviously that's why I'm working from left to right in this piece for the most part, because I didn't want to deal with my hand getting a bunch of oil pastel on it, although it did anyways, as expected. Hopefully this piece is not too boring with so much grass in the foreground, but I have to say, I had a really fun time blending that grass together. I don't know why. You would think that wouldn't be very exciting, but for some reason, I just had a blast with this. I just liked the texture that the oil pastel created and how that looks with a landscape work. Also, you could see me desperately trying to incorporate the different greens into those trees in the background. You could see all sorts of greens. I just wanted to use as many colors as I could since I knew that half of the palette I wasn't going to be using, but at least I could use all those greens. There's also a cliff in the background with some trees on top, so I was able to use my black as well to create sort of, or actually I think I used my green gray there to create a gray tone, and then on the left side, the mountains with the blue, that's where I used black as well. But I didn't use too much black here except for the shadowed areas. Honestly, a lot of the colors were deep enough where I didn't even have to use the black very much. So it does look a little bit odd with that white building in the middle that I don't get to until the end. But I wanted to save it for last so that none of the pastel would smudge the colored pencil work. Also, to make the grass a little more interesting, you'll see me add a bit of brighter yellow. As I'm recording this, I forgot what that was called, but you guys probably just saw it in the swatch chart. That deeper yellow, I want to say it's Naples yellow. I think it looks really nice and stands out against the grass there. I also tried to create some contrast here. You could see that pathway is a lot lighter than the surrounding areas, and then of course that house is going to stay pretty light as well. That building in the background. I didn't fill in all of the white spaces as I was working either. It just sort of adds to the texture. Also, I noticed that the more layers you add, of course, it's going to start to blend smoothly, so if you want it to still be textured, you can't really blend out too much, you can't layer too much. At first I wanted to put some kind of rock on the right side, but it was a terrible idea, so I ended up scratching that, and you'll see me fix it, luckily. Oil pastel can be forgiving, especially compared to something like markers, or ink, or watercolor even, because even though I started things this way, I was able to go ahead and go on top and fix them. See, that looks pretty bad, whatever I did there. Why would red flowers be growing out of a rock? It doesn't make sense, so I changed it into a bush. And then I just incorporated that other stuff into the background. You know, just add a little bit more green. It's impressionism, right? Whatever you want to do. So I guess I did use a little bit of red, but you can't really see it too much in the final piece. So would I use these again? Definitely, I would use these again, and I would even consider buying another set, like a portrait set in the future, perhaps. Because I actually really enjoyed using these more than I thought I would. They're nothing like the student quality pastels I've tried in the past. They don't feel sticky to me, just very slippery. They feel like oil paint to me, in a way. By the way, you could see that effect of smoothing out the pastel for the sky, since I didn't want that to have the same rough texture as the rest of the piece. And so I could create an entire piece smoothly like that as well if I wanted to. I just had a lot more fun using these than I thought I would. In fact, I might like them better than soft pastel because soft pastel produces so much residue and dust everywhere. Even though it blends out a lot more easily, it just tends to create a dust cloud in the air of toxic dust, which nobody really wants. So I think I might actually prefer these to my soft pastels. They don't even feel like crayons anymore. They feel more like lipstick, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. There I am, kind of working on that building with my polychromos. I like the way colored pencil looks with oil pastel, so I didn't mind that being different. And I think that the added detail provides a nice contrast to the rest of the piece as well. Even then, I felt like this piece might be missing something, or maybe it's just a little bit boring, but it was a perfect piece to try these out for the first time. And there's what it looks like in the end, you guys. Let me know what you think. Should I do more landscapes? I think I should, obviously, because it is a landscape set after all. I'm looking forward to maybe creating fall artwork with this eventually in the future, since we do have a lot of those reds and oranges and browns. But the green palette is really nice as well, and so I'm really glad that I tried these out, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's video and that it was helpful for you or interesting. I'm not sure I see many artists using oil pastels on YouTube very often, and I always understood why, because they can be a bit of a pain. But after trying this set out, I might have to have a change of heart about them. Sure, they're still kind of messy, so I wouldn't pull them out every day. But I think I would like to use these again in the near future. And I'm excited to practice a bit more with them and maybe try some more textures with them as well. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've tried this set or any oil pastel really, because they don't seem to be as popular of a medium. And I will see you guys in the next video. Again, thanks for watching as always. Bye, you guys.